It's now official. The monsoon will be delayed and deficient. In fact, the fears of a possible drought spooked stock markets today. But will it be a fresh setback for the Modi government already battling to recover the economy? And is the tag of the fastest growing economy a mere farce?
Clearly, the biggest uncertainty at this point is the outturn of the monsoon.
It's raining worries for the economy. And RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan says poor rainfall is the biggest one. He cut rates by an expected 0.25% today, but his message was clear. If the monsoon is weak, don't expect much more. Drought fears sent stock markets plunging. Sensex crashed nearly 700 points and Nifty shed over 2%. This is why. A deficient monsoon will push up prices and in turn bring down disposable incomes. There will be no room for further rate cuts, which in turn will impact consumer demand. Rural consumption and agricultural growth will be lower, and that will hurt overall growth. RBI has already cut the growth target for this year to 7.6% from the earlier 7.8%. But industry chambers hit out at the central bank for not focusing on growth, saying the rate cut is too little and too late to infuse consumer demand. The ASSOCHAM chief said the RBI governor has refrained from taking bolder steps and that it's time to focus on growth, else the fastest growing economy tag would only remain a hype. Another industry chamber, FICCI, echoed the sentiment, saying given the current situation, RBI could have considered a deeper cut in repo rate. RBI has made it clear the government's ability to mitigate the monsoon impact is critical. So far, inflation is under check. But if the right steps are not taken, a poor monsoon can play havoc with the economy. Shweta Rajpal Kohli, NDTV. And joining us on the debate tonight, Sajid Chinoy, Chief India Economist, JP Morgan, Siddharth Birla, past President of FICCI, GP Sharma, VP at SkyMet Weather Services, Ajay Kumar, spokesperson of the Congress, and of course with me here in the studio, Nalin Kohli, spokesperson of the BJP. Let me first go across to Sajid Chinoy to get a sense of whether a delayed and deficient monsoon is a real worry for the Indian economy, or is everyone, including the stock market, overreacting to the news. Sajid.
Well, I think both things are true. I think the stock market overreacted today, as it typically does. The monsoon is a very real concern, but there's no reason to panic just as yet. And I'll tell you why. I think the two concerns are if you have a deficient monsoon, it would mean agricultural production suffers and you could increase the stress in the rural economy. The rural economy is already bleeding, so you don't want to exacerbate the stress there. And the second concern is you could spike food prices, and food inflation could go up and spiral into a more generalized inflation. But that said, government actions become critical. I mean, to their credit, this government's done a very good job in containing food inflation. And last year, it should be remembered, the monsoon was exactly at the same level that the Met predicts this year, which is 88% of normal. And guess what? Food inflation actually came down last year because the government made sure minimum support prices were contained. They sold rice and wheat. Right. They acted quite nimbly. So I would argue this is a risk, but how the government responds will determine what the impact on the economy is. And I'll make one final point here. The risk here is, or the challenge is, how do you buffer the economy from a shock without while similarly eschewing any fiscal populism? I think that's the difficult trade-off that the government will have to try and sort out.
Sajid, we'll talk more about it. You're saying there's no reason to panic just yet. Yes, it's a worrisome situation. The government took very, very important steps last year. We can expect the same reaction this year. A very quick yes or no comment. Is the RBI governor overreacting then by saying monsoon is the biggest risk, the biggest uncertainty he's facing right now?
No, he's not. He's exactly right. If you lay out all the inflation risk, this is undoubtedly the biggest risk they face. And I'll just make one quick point here. The RBI's legal mandate today, in an agreement with the government, is to keep inflation below 6%. Right. If the monsoon were to be severely deficient and food inflation spike, there is a risk this could go above 6. So he's very right to be concerned.
Okay, he is right to be concerned, but that's something the industry doesn't seem to agree with. Siddharth Birla, past President FICCI, is with us, and today industry chambers, including FICCI, have actually put out very strong statements asking the RBI why is it not going in for deeper rate cuts to actually fuel growth in the economy? Is he proving to be an inflation hawk? Is he worrying too much about inflation risks at a time when inflation is not so much of a worry? Siddharth Birla, your comments on the fact that the RBI governor says it's a Goldilocks policy. This is the best I could have done. It's neither conservative nor aggressive, but the industry clearly wants more.
Shweta, I think when we spoke a couple of days ago, I did urge that the governor take a leap of faith. And I was very happy that the governor would exercise his judgment, which he has. So now that's all water under the bridge. So frankly, there's little to be done because there's not going to be another rate cut or another policy tomorrow morning. I think the important thing is governor did point.
Are you happy with just a 25 basis point cut? Because FICCI has put out a statement saying we expected a deeper cut.
We expected. That doesn't mean, we don't have to be happy about everything. So I think the statement from FICCI captures it. But I think the key point is, the governor has made 3 cuts this year. In the first 5 months of this year, he's made 3 cuts. Now, the issue is, have the banks really passed on all those cuts?
Right.
If they haven't passed on all those cuts, talking about the Reserve Bank cutting doesn't do much good. That is number one. Number two, I think the issue is also the liquidity in the system. It's also the health of the banks. And I think the governor has pointed out the most factor staring us in the face, which is monsoons, because inflation is under control, CAD is under control.
Right.
He's pointed out everything, including the damage to the Rabi crop, and he's looking forward to problem in the Kharif season because of the monsoon. But we have been through this last year. I mean, El Nino was predicted last year. So we got out of it reasonably well.
So there's no reason why we wouldn't.
I don't think there's any brave man in the... I think it requires a very brave man to predict exactly what El Nino will do.
Right.
So, it is a risk. I think it's a risk going forward, but it's not a back-breaking risk.
Okay, not a back-breaking risk, but I'd like to take forward the point on the health of the economy. And Nalin Kohli is with me here. Nalin, it's all very well to say that India today is the fastest growing economy in the world. But we had the RBI governor in his press conference this morning make a very, very interesting remark. Why should an economy that's growing at 7.5% need a rate cut? Now tell me, isn't it really a farce that India is the fastest growing economy in the world? The fact that the health of the economy on paper and on the ground is way different.
Well, a lot of things have happened. That there is a change of calculation, and that's a normal method of how you make these statistical adjustments in terms of how you'd like to calculate, how you'd like the basket to be, things like that. And it's not just something that the government of India is putting out there. Responsible agencies internationally, the IMF, others are speaking the same language. So therefore, I don't look at it from that perspective. I think the larger thing are the attempts of the government in the right direction? And they certainly are. Can we say we are in the same position we were last year? Can we not acknowledge that the government has made every effort to put the economy back on track? Let's take a few things.
Made the effort, but it's not showing results.
Maybe. But the economy, and you've covered it long enough, is not like a shopping basket that you walk into a superstore and buy out what you'd like to see in the economy.
Right.
It's about planting the seeds and then getting those green shoots. And the green shoots are there. No one's denying that the green shoots are there. So therefore, if you're in the rear direction, it's only a matter of time before you eat the fruits.
Okay.
And that's the cycle of the economy. So just to sum it up in a minute, yes, inflation is under control. We can't allow it to go out of control. The second is that, there are elements of some spikes coming in. The global situation has helped us. Financial inclusion is a huge leap of faith. So is the schemes on, in terms of poverty, in terms of accident insurance, in terms of pension and all that. That's bringing funds too.
But let's just talk growth, because right now what we're going to see play out in the next few months will be the inflation growth trade-off, which is a classic,
it's not a new story.
Dilemma.
It won't be the last of it.
It's not a new story. It's a dilemma that policymakers face all the time. I have an industrialist tell me that on paper growth is 7.5%, but it feels like 4.5% growth. Would you agree with that?
Well, I mean, I can't agree with it because certainly I don't see it that way. I think if I look at elimination of corruption from policy making, that's a phenomenal
We're digressing, Nalin.
issue.
Does it feel like 4.5%? Quick comment from you, Siddharth Birla. Does it feel like 4.5% when we are technically at 7.5%?
No, I think that 4.5, I was on the same program,
Yeah, that's right.
sounded a little extreme. It sounded a little extreme. Yes, we have a long way to go, but you know, in 2013, we were all sitting in studios and in front of cameras and saying life was impossible. And in 2015, we say we want life to be easy. I don't think that that's a done thing. And we are headed the right way. And if we have the perseverance to keep on the right track, as we are, and the low commodity prices are helping the business sector.
Sure.
So I think we should be on the right direction.
Yeah, quick.
I think we've achieved an inflection point in the last 1 year, and we are seeing things are definitely improving. The point is that you can keep debating how fast, but if you're in the right direction, you will achieve it.
Ajay Kumar, spokesperson Congress, if I could come to you on the fact that everyone seems to be crediting this government with at least one thing, the way it's been able to manage prices. Yes, of course, the overall commodity price situation has helped. We know global crude prices collapsed worldwide. We know commodity prices eased. But on the whole, the government has been proactive in managing prices. Would you agree with that, Ajay Kumar?
You know, Shweta, the Prime Minister made a statement that I'm I'm a lucky person and the petrol prices and the fuel prices have come down. So I would say that it also reflects if there is no rain, then he should, also agree that it's been pretty unlucky in terms of the agriculture sector or the rural demand if there is a poor monsoon, because you can't say that I'm lucky when the fuel prices come down. But coming to controlling prices, one of the issues which I think you can credit the government definitely is increasing releasing the food grains and the food products into from the FCI and from the storage into the market. But the danger, and I want to speak a minute on the numbers. So you see, everybody is saying 7.4%, and all the people who are reasonably sensible, whether it's Ruchi Sharma or Ajay Chip or everybody else, says that there's a great deal of doubt on these numbers, because it actually doesn't feel whether this is 7.3%, because then Mr. Siddharth Birla's impossible period, which he seems to say, was 6.5 to 7.6. Did it feel like 6.5%? I don't think so. Does it feel like 7.3%? I don't think so. So the numbers are definitely suspicious across, and people analyzing, and we continue to try to pep up the market saying feel good factor, animal spirit. But the government will pay a price for ignoring the rural sector significantly.
Okay.
And it is not the bad monsoon. It is the 1 year policy of this government. There is a huge amount of rural distress, and you cannot get 70% of the population of this country not creating a demand by not empowering them, not paying attention to the 70% of the population in terms of agriculture sector.
Let's take forward your point of rural distress,
and
because that is a grave crisis.
Just 30 seconds.
Yeah, go ahead, complete your point.
And now don't blame the monsoon because for 1 year you didn't manage. No, and don't blame the monsoon because 1 year the action taken by this government has ensured there is rural distress and rural demand is depressed. Except commodity price, you're reducing the commodity price.
I'll come to Nalin for a moment. I have to go across to GP Sharma of SkyMet Weather Services to get his perspective on whether or not we're going to see this rural distress worsen. What we're talking about right now is, of course, 88% of the average. Now, technically, what the numbers tell us, anything below 90% as far as the monsoon goes is classified as a drought. Are we looking at a drought here this year? Are we facing a similar situation now? Mr. Sharma?
Yes, of course. If 88% is the figure, it is a drought. Anything, as you said, less than 90%, it points towards a drought only. Okay. And we are aware that last year also figure was almost same. We ended up with 88%, which was a drought year. This year, as we say, the SkyMet has given its assessment earlier also that we expect the monsoon not to be so bad. Actually, we say that monsoon rainfall is going to be normal across the monsoon 4 months, okay, across June, July, August, September. It's going to end up with a normal rainfall, though the variation will always be there. Maybe all the months will not be very good, but then main months, July and August, I expect them to be good, keeping the rainfall well under control, and it will remain normal for the season.